All right. Well, good morning. Here we are, first Wednesday of April. We are in officially the 420 month. So, hey, we got some events coming later this month, right? 420 all over the nation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the countdown is here. Um,
Yeah.
16 days away.
Weather's getting warmer. Hopefully, it'll stay this way. Although we got
Well,
rain, I'm sure, coming.
rain's mixed in there, but hopefully those showers will be gone by the middle of the month.
Right. Exactly. So how was your week? What you been got going on?
Pretty busy. We had 404 day yesterday. Celebrated that with the mayor down in underground Atlanta. So we got a lot of activations going on. It's more to come. We're involved with a big 420 event that's coming up as well. Um, I'll disclose the location, but it's definitely you can check it out at seshatl.com to look up the event.
All right. Yeah. Hey, first week of April for me, we've talked about it a little bit, been a little bit up and down, but hey, I'm here. We're moving. We got things going.
Oh yeah, we um, we got so much more to plan, and we're looking for more people to join us, not only in getting the
Absolutely.
word out, but also getting in a safer, better space. I can't emphasize how much help we need in the mental health space. I spoke with some of the city officials yesterday about getting some more support and involvement in it, so that way we can provide resources and outlets, so that way that we can make not only our city a better place, but many other cities great places and spaces to live in.
No, absolutely. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, which we're going to do a lot in May, focusing on that. Hopefully, get some people involved in that who can come on and speak about it. But it's not just a month thing. It's not a week. It's a day. It's a yearly thing. And there's a lot of people who we see on our day to day lives that, you know what, you don't ever know what they're going through. They hide it, they mask it, they feel ashamed by it, whatever it might be. So it's out there. It's everybody. It's not just, people that you look at and go, oh, they have an issue and I can tell. We got a lot of people that you never even know have a problem.
You know, from one day to the next, there are a multitude of problems that everybody have. It's not
Hmm.
just one person. No one is immune from having any level of problems in their life. It's all about how you manage it, and creating some form of balance and a routine to get through all of those tough moments. I think that for everyone that's listening now, I think they can relate to what I'm saying in regards to that. And one of the things I challenge everyone to do is to be a good friend, a positive friend, and continue to be able to be either that shoulder that somebody can cry on, or either be those shoulders to hold up a situation to be strong. So it's important to try to be strong when you can for the people that's around you. Um, some people, um, from a standpoint of programming, have been programmed no negativity because it's just
Oh,
so
yeah.
much negativity around them. So we just want to be able to show and shed some light on some resources that are there that you may have not known, and be optimistic. Just have an open mind, and there are possibilities to come with an open mind.
No, absolutely. And to expound on that a little bit, and I'm not just going to say it's men. I think that, men have had that stigma for a long time, women, children, all of them. But, a lot of times men are taught they're not supposed to show a sign of weakness. They're not supposed to show there's a problem, something's going on. And if you ask them, how are you doing? A lot of times that response is going to be, I'm fine, I'm okay. And that's it. Doesn't mean they are fine. They're using that to cover it and give you an answer to basically say, it's not going to matter, leave me alone.
Well, one thing I want to do is I want to talk about one quote that Dr. King had spoke about, the true measures of a man. The true measures of a man does not come during moments of comfort and convenience, but it actually comes in times of challenge and controversy. And someone um, who understands this meaning will know that the challenges not only are in the dark, they're also behind closed doors, but they're also in open spaces.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is it's in one notion, people say closed mouths do not get fed. In this notion, if you need help, you ask for help.
Hmm.
You do not stay silent. You do not stay mute. You take the initiative to get yourself in a good space and solid ground to stand on. You do not stay closed mouth, stay muted. What you do is you go into action. There are people that you can rely and depend upon that are neutral, that will maintain a level of secrecy with you. There are some people out there that's negative, so stay away from those people. Very important that you know who you're dealing with. If you don't know someone, get referrals. Ask.
Hmm.
It's very easy to ask and find a professional who knows what they're doing and they're compassionate about what they're doing because they truly want to help the public. And that's what public servants are. And we do have a tremendous public servant in office with the city of Atlanta.
Absolutely. And another thing to go a little bit further on what you stated, and this is sometimes hard to do. Remember, not everybody that wants to say they're trying to help you or truly trying to help you, some of them are going to use it against you, leverage to better themselves, and at the right time, possibly use that against you and towards the deficit on you because of you were trying to find help with them. Not everybody can be trusted, unfortunately.
No, definitely. And you got to understand in this world that that the people are looking for opportunities.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, you got some people that prey on opportunity on other people.
Yes.
Um, there is a gray area when it comes to business. You use the word ethics.
Hmm.
Um, some people just may not embody any ethics. They may have never been taught any ethics when it comes to business. So a lot of that stuff just comes from the people that you've been around. And the choices of doing that stuff is by people that you can trust. Even people that you can trust, you gotta examine everything just to make sure they don't have any skeletons in the closet as well, or there's a hidden agenda. But normally, most people try to. You want to see the good in most people, and you hear it in their conversations, and you see it in their actions.
Yep. And unfortunately, we won't go into that. You and I have both encountered somebody business wise who appeared to have some ethics, and well, that was completely wrong. But something I don't know if they mentioned yesterday because you brought this up. I just thought about it. Yesterday was 404 day, correct? What else was yesterday?
Um, you gonna have to enlighten me on that one. I got so many things on my mind. I totally missed that one.
You said his name. You gave a quote from him.
Oh, Dr. King.
Yesterday was the day that Dr. Martin Luther King was shot in Memphis,
Oh gosh.
April
Oh
4th.
wow. That part of history totally eluded me.
And you know what? For a lot of people, it does. And I'll be honest with you, the way I remember it, it's actually from the U2 song, the song that they talk about pride, what more in the name of love. He literally has a line there that says, early morning, April 4th, shot rings out in the Memphis sky. Free at last, they took your life, but they could not take your pride. And that's how it sticks in my head that it happened on April 4th.
Wow. Yeah, and I remember seeing Bernice King post. But like I said, between calls, messages, trying to
Man.
get everything set up for the event yesterday, it was just really busy dealing with a funeral as well, along with the planning. We had the counseling event on Saturday for the funeral, homegoing for Clay Evans.
Right.
So it's been a really exciting and sad roller coaster ride. The roller
Yeah.
coaster ride, there are a lot of happy moments, but at the same time, just a reflection of life when you lose a really good person in the community. And for the people that didn't know him, tremendous young man, and good heart, great spirit. Always had a piece of advice for everyone. And those are the type of people that you want to be around.
Hmm.
And he was a good friend to me for well over 25 years. And he's going to be definitely missed. It's
Right.
just it's really tough. So we definitely want to celebrate the people that's with us every day, all the living, and just make sure that that we do all we can to be good brothers and good sisters to everyone, so that way there's a fair chance and we can live a meaningful life.
Well, and to your point too, you know what? Take a moment out there today to not only try to be an encouragement for somebody, but tell people that are important in your life about that because life is shorter than we ever anticipate it being.
Yes, no, it definitely is. Panic and anxiety is something that's very,
Hmm.
very high and rampant in our society, and in the age of social media, the panic and anxiety can only escalate even more. There's a lot of things in your community that can affect you. So being aware of your surrounding environment is really important. Whether you're at home or whether you're out in the public right away, you wanna definitely be aware of your surroundings at all time, and just keep yourself in a good space. Um, it's really different.
No, absolutely. But hey, we do have some good news that we're going to get into. And one of the first ones is going to be Delaware, which, guess what, is considered the first state. The Delaware legislation once again passed an adult use cannabis bill. Now, probably sounds familiar because they passed legislation on this topic before, only to have it vetoed by the governor, John Kerry, Democratic at that moment. But at this time, however, support legalization is higher and may actually be enough to override that veto. So we could be moving forward in Delaware finally.
Delaware has been a problem state. That is definitely a good note in that direction. They may have needed some positive media and PR, so hopefully this is not a media stunt.
Right.
Um, but Delaware definitely, as it being the first state, um, there should be some really good foundations that come out of there, and hopefully this will be the beginning for everybody.
All right. So quick trivia question for you. We just said Delaware was the first state. How many states do we have currently?
50.
So what would be the last state? Do you know that one?
I would say either Alaska or Hawaii.
Hawaii, because that's where we're going next. And Hawaii is going on a completely different front from Delaware. Things are moving in a different direction for them. Although the Senate passed an adult use legalization bill by a large margin, the House leadership did not schedule the measure for a hearing in time to meet legislation deadlines. So Hawaii's going to have to wait one more year now.
Uh, and the thing about that state is that it is sitting between continental United States and China. So when
Mm-hmm.
you think about its residents and its makeup of its population, you gotta remember also in China, it's not legal. CBD
Sure.
is, but anything pertaining to cannabis is not. So um, definitely the legalization is still going to have a challenge, and it's just because it's in between.
Right. But they've got the perfect area to grow it. I'll tell you that. They've got the land for it. They've got the climate. They would be fantastic for growing and culturing it.
Absolutely, I truly believe that. I just think that based off of the control of that state um, and who actually run it, that it may have a little bit more Pacific influence than it do um, the Eastern influence.
No, and that's a very, very fair point. I wasn't even thinking about that, but you're absolutely right. When you add all those different qualifications involved, that's why exactly I think you've got a lot of pushback and why it's being held like it is.
Yes, definitely.
So now we're going to slide over to the 15th state, Kentucky. The lawmakers of both political parties came together to support a bill regulating Delta 8 THC in the bluegrass. Governor Andy Beshear, who we've talked about a good bit, Democrat, signed the bill last week. Supporters of the cannabis legalization, as well as companies in the hemp industry, are supportive of the measure. They want Kentuckians to have access to the resources they need for relief. We want to make sure they can do it safely, and the bill is in a good first step. So that's fantastic news, not just
No,
for
it
the mental health
absolutely
end,
is.
but the medicinal as well.
No, it definitely is. And Kentucky was a state where They were able to grow the product as well.
Hmm.
So for them not to have a plan for recreational and personal use, it just, I mean, not personal, but medicinal use, it just baffles me at that point that that it's not there and it's not established.
No, it doesn't make sense. The bluegrass state should be completely green at this point. It really should. Maybe a little bit
Yes,
of
it
a
should.
pun, but it should.
Yeah, it definitely should. Definitely should.
It's that just makes no sense whatsoever why they're holding back, but we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen there. Don't know, hopefully soon. But New York now, the Empire State, which we noted, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals has become involved in the cannabis dispensary arena. The court modified a lower court's injunction against dispensaries owned by justice involved individuals opening in 5 regions of the state. Prior to the decision this week, such dispensaries were prohibited in Western New York. Hudson Valley, Central New York, Finger Lakes, and Brooklyn. Now only Finger Lakes is off limits.
Wow.
So we got to figure out where that's going to go because, like we talked about, not only are they doing it in classes, they were actually talking about a cannabis museum library there, were they not?
Yeah, they were. Um, yeah, this news from New York. Um, wow, that one right there just hit me hit me from left field.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It's interesting. You've got, for example, like the next one right here, New York City. Now, for those who aren't quite so familiar, for example, here close to me, and you can expound on some of this too, I've got a city close to me, Kennesaw. Now, Kennesaw is going to lie in the Cobb County jurisdiction when it comes to a county, but you have Kennesaw and you have unincorporated Kennesaw. So the unincorporated Kennesaw has a little bit different legislation, different rules, a couple of different things of how they handle different situations. I'm wondering, do you have those similar things in New York? Because New York City is allowing you to have the THC NYC opening on April 7th. So in 2 days, the home to high culture promises an immersive experience and, of course, the opportunity to purchase it. So they're moving forward and having different events and different classes as well as different functions to highlight THC, cannabis, Delta 8, but yet you're having all these restrictions at the same point. So because it's in NYC, is that going to be different than the outlying areas?
Well, the most important thing is as a planner and organizer when you do events like that, one, you're trying to push forward the industry and create an awareness and exposure for the powers that be. Any businesses that are based there will definitely be able to benefit from this type of initiative. So I definitely see that being there. Um, as I was looking at the previous article, this it appears to me that this falls along the line of leadership in those areas that have made the decisions regarding prohibiting in Western New York. That's something where when you think about um, like Delaware, we was initially in the past discussions talking about the governor and where he stood with where the industry was at that time. The leadership in those particular areas um, probably are totally opposed. That's like the district attorney for Gwinnett County.
Mm-hmm.
They're opposed. That same district attorney actually sent officers in SWAT gear to licensed businesses that actually sell legal CBD products.
Right.
So,
Right.
so that's a mixture of what's going on with New York there. That's the only thing that kind of makes sense with that. I thought that the whole city, not only the city, but the whole state was online with it, but obviously it's not.
Well, I thought the city was for sure. The state, wasn't 100% sure on. But let's give you a little bit more information on that. This event is going to be located in a 30,000 square foot historic cast iron building, the intersection of Howard and Broadway in Soho. It's going to offer 10 different attractions, immersive experience designed to highlight the dimensions of the cannabis culture. The space will feature a private lounge, ground level gathering space, featuring community events, a cafe, corner store, live glass blowing, and curated assortment of cannabis inspired lifestyle products. It's going to be open from 11 to 8 p.m. and that's going to start on Friday, actually.
And that sounds like an amazing event. Um, it touches in a lot of different areas, so that way it can get the gathering of different mindset sets into one space. So it's definitely interesting. I'd love to get the post comments on that event after it's produced.
No, absolutely. And we're going to share this article a little bit better on our page. But for those that are interested, very simple. You go to thcnyc.com, and that will have more information, more on the other events that they're going to have there. Because this is, from what I'm seeing, it's the grand opening on the 7th. So this is not going away. This is going to be continual in New York City. So it's going to be something that I'm sure will be constantly changing and evolving over time. And it starts again, like we said, on Friday. So go to that website. We will post the website on our sites so you can check it out. They have an Instagram page as well, which would very simply be Instagram, and it'd be at THC NYC. So encourage all of you to follow them and see where they're going to continue to go with this.
That's right. That's right. Definitely keep a lookout for them and continue to support.
Absolutely. So we're here in April. Now we're what, 6 months away from this roughly. Guess what? We've got presidential news, and it's not just about Afro Man, which honestly, I haven't heard anything else about him. Have you?
I haven't heard anything about Afro Man, but I'm sure that he's getting his resources together to make that run.
Sure. Now I know that he, for those who weren't as familiar with this, what was this about 2 years ago, 3 years ago? He actually had a SWAT team raid his house.
Yeah, yeah. It's still, still unbelievable how the powers that be go about. Um, I, I don't want to use a uh, derogatory term, but they literally have to stop nightsticking us. It's not right. It's definitely not right.
Well, the reason why I'm mentioning it is, and I don't remember the song, but did you know that he actually used the surveillance footage from his house into a music video about it?
Wow. Now that's something to see.
Isn't it? So I
Yeah.
don't, like I said, I don't remember the song. I've seen it one time, but wow. I mean that's pretty bold, isn't it? I mean, you're basically using it. I guess it could be used either way, couldn't it? Because it could be a positive or it could be a negative for you.
I think the whole thing is exposure. You got to shed the light
Yeah.
on anything that happens or occurs. If you leave it in the dark for people not to see, you can't examine it. There's not no discussion that goes into it. And then in addition to that, the opinions itself can go in a particular direction that spawns
Hmm.
other questions. So the exposure is important, and I salute him for doing that.
Well, the reason why we're bringing it up is we've had two females throw their hat into the ring for the presidential this coming year. One is Democratic, one is Republican. And we want to go actually on what they're looking at. For example, Maureen Williamson is again seeking the Democratic presidential nomination, mounting a challenge against incumbent President Biden for the 2024 election. The lecturer and self help author, so she's on the mental health aspect, hasn't served as an elected official before, but she has taken a clear position on the drug policy. The war on drugs has failed, and it's time to legalize marijuana and explore the potential of psychedelics. Running against an incumbent president for the same party is a tall task. We know that. And let's be honest, because of what we've seen throughout history, women have not fared as well, overall speaking, in this particular section of government. We've only had really what, two run? Hillary Clinton got close, and Palin, what, didn't really get past the primaries, did she?
No, but the one thing I want to say first and foremost about the presidency, we do definitely need more people who are not as much of a businessman or a businesswoman, but truly want to see the
Yes.
country itself take the next steps to coming back together and the togetherness. Being a world power is important, but at the same time, our country needs a lot of help and a lot of repair. And with Miss Williamson's background as a self-help,
Right.
I'm sure that she'll be able to bring some laterals that will make the other opponents step up, and make sure that they have the same mindset going into office.
No, I agree with that, and we'll get into her more here in a moment. But for example, you're right. Government is a business. Yes, we know that. The nation is a business. You do need some business-minded ideas there, but at the same point, our Constitution even says, "By the people, for the people." Well, we need somebody of the people who is listening to the people to help lead the people.
Totally, totally, and that's why I stand with that. You know, when you look at some of the people that are in place now, their leadership, it shows that they're more about the business than they are for the people.
No, absolutely. Now, she's attracted some headlines over her two campaigns and affected the narrative around issues ranging from student debt to cannabis policy. Beyond statements on social media and interviews, Williams' record on the issue is thin, but the latest challenge to Biden has put her back in the spotlight, warranting a roundup of her position on the drug policy matters, which we're going to get into. Legislation and policy actions. Previously ran, as we stated, on successful campaigns to serve in Congress and the White House, not been an elected official. She does not have a legislative record on drug policy issues. Of course, she hasn't because she hasn't been in there. But on the campaign trail, an interview with ABC News, after announcing her latest candidacy, Williamson shared her perspective on the shortcomings of the Biden administration and said there are many things the president can do without working through Congress. The president declassification of marijuana right now. She made similar remarks at the campaign event in New Hampshire, and she goes on to say that Biden has directed administrative review into cannabis scheduling, but the congressional research have maintained that it is not, in fact, within the president's authority to unilaterally deschedule it. So then the question is, who is supposed to deschedule it, and how do we get there?
Well, Chuck Schumer has probably been one of the most instrumental people
Agreed.
in making the push. And what we have to do is we definitely have to have a commander in chief who also has an optimistic outlook on this fight that we have to take cannabis off of the Schedule One list. It just have to have somebody that has a little bit more education, a little bit more awareness, and then instead of it being in a closed circle, it should be in more open circle,
Mm-hmm.
to get it on the floor and be discussed, and then put someone in place to to handle the research that comes along with it, so we can get it into the public place in the public right away.
No, absolutely, because she's gone on and she has stated a couple of times on social media she considers the drug war a failure. I agree with her. Believes the president can and should federally legalize cannabis and support criminal justice centered reform that prioritizes those who have been caught up in the criminalization. The candidate has also reportedly argued those who oppose student loan debt relief because they weren't afforded the opportunity are essentially making the same argument that legalization of marijuana would be unfair to those who have and were criminalized over cannabis.
Totally right. And I think this goes back to just the focus of how the country was overall set up. When you look at the criminal system now, it is monetized. It actually creates an instability in people's lives. When you incriminate people for self-medicating, you gotta just go, why? It
Right.
makes no sense when you look at that. Now, don't get me wrong. There is substance abuse that is out there from
Absolutely.
one person to the next. If your actions cause a deterioration not only in your life but the people around you, then you need the help. There is not a system in place to help people enough with a rehabilitative process in place to get people back into a normalcy. So the allocation of dollars and where that money goes at, there should be a fund, a general fund that's available for that, and it's just not there. So they have to uh, reset a lot of the agendas. They have to reset the appropriations of the monies. An extensive amount of the monies are going into areas to continue to prosecute people and put them at a disadvantage, which takes away from their families and of course, ultimately takes away from their life.
Well, it takes away a lot of things because people self-medicate on alcohol. People eat the wrong foods. There's so many different things out there that causes harm. That this is not drugs as being the only quote unquote thing that causes harm, but this also causes harm to people, as you said, self-medicating. It can cost them job. It can cost them the opportunity at jobs. It can cost them housing, a lot of things for something that they're trying to get help with because guess what? The opiates are not the answer.
That is 100% true. I have lost someone from an opioid overdose, and I understand how devastating it can actually be.
Okay.
Opioids not only unravels people's lives, but it can literally crush you out of existence. Um, so I just really think that not only is it not a natural reoccurring substance from Mother Earth, it definitely should be um, taken off the list. I really don't feel that it should be there.
It can cause liver damage or liver damage, kidney damage. It can cause so many different things that a natural substance is not causing.
That is true. That is definitely true.
Now, she also weighed in on Brittany Griner in Russia and stated that it was a terrible circumstance. But people should keep in mind the U.S. also maintains punitive drug laws, and that's true.
That is true.
Now, Williamson reinforced quotes from a senior aide to President Nixon. Okay, so we're going back quite a few years to hammer down the point that the drug war largely originated as an excuse to criminalize perceived political adversaries, namely minorities and progressives.
Yes.
President Nixon, we're talking 60 plus years now, right?
Yeah, that was mid 70s.
Okay, right. So, okay, but still, we're almost at that 60 mark. We're at that 50 plus. So, you're telling me that things are exactly the same 50 years ago in the drug war? We haven't made any advance?
You know, once again, our current commander in chief, some of the legislation that he put in place when he was in office as a senator, still totally affects this country to this day. And he has been commander in chief for a little more than 2 years now, and he has not made a change yet. He
No.
has not updated policies. So part of the problem lies with him.
Yep, agreed. Because on
So
this next point, for example, prior to Biden's mass marijuana pardons and directive for an administration scheduling the review in October 2022, Williamson has routinely argued that the president could unilaterally deschedule it, effectively legalizing the plant, and that he should take that step. The candidate also criticized the White House over penalizing employees who were honest about prior marijuana use as part of their application process. So there we go. Talking about how he should deschedule it. I mean, as far as I know, I don't know this completely, but he's got the right to do that. It sounds like correct.
it does.
And he's penalizing people who are being honest about it. I mean, so for example, criminal system, someone who has been in jail a lot of times gets a harder shake when it comes to getting a job, correct? So now we're sitting here seeing people who are trying to say, hey, maybe they were a former veteran. Maybe they've had different mental issues. I'm trying to use this to help better myself. I'm being open and honest about it. So you're automatically stricken away that you cannot work in the White House because you're being honest about how this plant is helping you. It's crazy.
It is, and you know, with a condition of reason, we still do have a level of substance abuse that still occurs.
Very true.
And when you put someone in one of the most important buildings in this country, you want to know that you're getting an effort that's not altered. And and under that standpoint, I just want to make sure that there's a clear understanding that we want people to be in their best mental capacities, clear and focused, and not in an altered state. where it can actually hurt a group of people at any point in time.
No, and I agree with you on that. That's a very valid, fair point. And I do not have these stats in front of me, but I saw something about a week ago where there was a senator standing up and he was giving statistics of numbers of people who have been arrested for DUIs, people who had been arrested for, I think it was money laundering, a list of different things. And he literally sat there at one point and said, "These numbers I'm giving you, when I say this, it sounds like the NFL, right?" He goes, "No, this is Congress." So I agree with what you're saying because you do want people in that right frame of mind, but you realize how many people in Congress are drinking continually, who are using opiates, whatnot, who have been arrested for DUIs. They're not thinking clearly, correct?
That's correct.
So you bring up that valid point, and I agree with you on that. But at the same point, we've already got people in those instances who are using other substances, so they're not thinking clearly to begin with. So part of that is, though be it true, a cop out.
That's true.
Because we've set up things, for example, in New York City now. You cannot use it within, what was it, 12 hours of being on a shift in New York if you're a firefighter or a police officer. So what if we set the same type of parameters for people that work in the government? So, you can't use it within 8 hours of having to step in for a presentation on a bill or voting on a bill. But on the backside of that, let's show the other end. Now, what about people who work in the White House? They don't necessarily have certain time frames of being in there. They may be working, 6 days in a row. So how would you do that? Yeah, just playing the devil's advocate. I get where you're coming from. Completely right on it. But we do have to have some way to be able to help them.
Well, let's look at how we are formatted right now. We work a 5-day work week, generally 8 hours a day. It's about a 40-hour week. If you opt and decide for overtime, you're looking at your 10, 12-hour days where you can probably top out at 60 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, our weekends have always been our refuge, where we're able to indulge, enjoy life, and after a long work week, we have our time for ourselves. So your Saturday and Sunday workspace is now zero, and now you can have your recreational use, and you should have that constitutional right to do so. So even then, as you get ready to go into work that Monday morning, let's just say 9 a.m. That means that you want to be clear of any activities by 9 p.m. on
Right.
Sunday if we did
Right.
the 12-hour rule. So when you look at it, we just want to act responsibly and make sure that the public stay safe at all times.
Yep.
And there's a responsibility to those persons that serve the public as well, and that's why we have to look at it that way.
No, absolutely. Agreed. Fair point. Now, she does go on to applaud congressional efforts to federally legalize it in 2021 and said the reform legislation should include releasing thousands of people from prison who have been there on marijuana convictions, as well as compensatory measures to help rebuild their lives. She also celebrated the legalization of it in New York, saying it was caused to reflect the terrible suffering and injustice of criminalization's caused to begin with. Now, after New Jersey's governor, Phil Murphy, signed legislation into law in 2021 following the voter approval of a ballot referendum, Williamson said she hoped the governor would release the prisons of many people in the state who have landed there on marijuana related charges. Now, interesting though, but still, it doesn't appear that Williamson has publicly talked about any personal experience with it. But one thing she made abundantly clear in 2020, following the presidential election, is that if she did smoke, she's not getting stoned with Senator Amy, was that Klobuchar, who ran against her from the Democratic nomination in that cycle. But she doesn't seem to have any personal experience with it. For the unofficial cannabis holiday of 420 last year, she also posted a video of her getting into a sanitary suit in Nevada-based cultivation facility. And following the tour, Williamson said that cannabis should be legalized with tax revenue from sales supporting universal health care, student debt relief, a higher minimum wage, and more. We have to take better care of the marijuana plants in the facility then we take care of thousands of children in Nevada and millions of children in America, she said.
And one thing you got to look at, that is an express plan.
Yes.
She has thought that out, and she has looked at what is necessary to make sure that the public has the resources and the fundings. The fundings will come from the tax revenue
Hmm.
that is based off of the sales of that product. And sales should be there. It gives people a
Yes.
fair chance to operate a business, to earn an income, and of course take care of their debts in society and take care of themselves. Um, that is what the plan should be. It should not be to line somebody's pockets up,
Right.
and they take all of the money and then don't leave any resources to help if there are any form or of addictions that could possibly happen out there. With the incarcerations, one of the things I gotta say about the incarcerations, that is the system that they have set up and designed that for the persons that are in those political offices. That's how they look at it. That's how they see it. That's how they get
Right.
paid. But they do not and have not provided an outreach to get those people the resources they need to understand, hey, you can't do this. If you do
Right.
this, this is what happens. But if you're self-medicating, why are you being persecuted for self-medicating? I don't understand that part. Like I said, if it goes beyond and it affects not only you as an individual or the person that's in your household or out in the community, that is the only way that you now take steps against that person. And then, even then, being a human being, you should get them the help that they need. That's the only way that I see it. Get them the help that they need. You put them in prison and now they can't see their family and loved ones.
Mm.
It's totally not right. You've deprived them of their freedoms and their liberties because of self-medicating. Some people have underlying issues where they actually need it. If it helps them
Yep.
cope with stress, if it helps them cope with anxiety, these are the things that will help people. And I truly understand that. And it should be for adults. I do not agree with it being used by children or teens as their bodies are still working on being developed. But if anyone has an underlying health condition that requires it, then from there it could be prescribed by a doctor, um, and that doctor would be able to maintain in-service care on that person.
Agreed. And at the same point with what she's stating here, if that's used towards universal health care, then that means that we should be able to get this plant as a not just an option, but as the primary use for the medical benefits underneath that healthcare as well.
That's correct.
And she
That's
says if
correct.
she gets in, she'll be a proactive supporter of federal legalization with an eye toward equality, meaning she will be willing to pursue the policy changes as they concern the psychedelics as well.
And once again, this is someone who has been educated. This is someone who has used on a recreational level, and they are receiving some form of benefits. From one day to the next, we all have challenges, whether it's a
Yes.
work challenge, whether it's a personal challenge, whether it's a physical challenge. And a lot of times we need some of those things. I call them vices in life. Some people turn to alcohol, some people may use the CBD product. Some people may
Mhm.
use cannabis. I think that um, if alcohol itself can be considered a recreational, why not cannabis? I just don't see the difference between the two. Um, Cannabis is definitely more of a reoccurring and natural product, but alcohol itself,
Right.
it definitely has its warnings. I mean, it could
It's a
definitely,
depressant, number one.
yeah, that's true.
You
That's
know,
true.
I mean, yes, in that moment, you're out with friends, you're having fun. It doesn't seem to take effect, but why do so many people get tired and feel down after the fact of drinking? And it's not just because, you've drank so much that you're in that state. It's the depressant end is hitting you. It is a depressant. It's not a stimulant like the caffeine. It's a depressant.
Right.
But now we're going
Well,
to flip the side here. Oh, go ahead.
no, and the one thing I gotta put out there with alcohol being widely accepted
Hmm.
in the public. I mean, literally any event that I've set up, you have to get a special
Yeah.
license or permit to serve alcohol. And I feel that
Yes.
that same taxation of that same product, it can be done with cannabis as well. It should be more forums and outlets that are available for that. But as we enter more in the event space, there is more opportunity that's ahead of us. So we have to
No.
just continue to organize, plan more events and more
Mhm.
activations as well, so that way we can get more support and involvement.
Absolutely, because Governor Nikki Haley announced that she's seeking the Republican nomination, and she's in South Carolina. Now, here's something that's very interesting. They're saying that the questions about where you stand on the marijuana policy issues is going to be a big time factor, and it's going to be asked in all of these different debates of all of these candidates. So that's a plus. Now, a little background on her. Served as United Nations ambassador under President Trump. Doesn't have especially extensive cannabis background, she stated, but she did sign limited reform legislation into law as governor. She expressed openness to continue the conversation with advocates and lawmakers about the issue. In general, it appears she supports the state based reform action, at least on a limited basis, and is sympathetic to patients who have benefit from medical cannabis, which that's what we need more of. Her record is light. She hasn't yet indicated whether she'll be seeking a broadly ended federal prohibition if elected. Okay. Now, says that she'll be running against Trump. We'll have to wait and see because, as we know, a lot is going on there, but that's going to be a wait and see type thing. Now, where she stands on legalization and policy actions during her time as the governor from 2011 to 2017, she signed two pieces of the modest cannabis reform legislation into law. In 2014, signed a bill from Senator Tom Davis to allow doctors to prescribe cannabidiol oil to patients suffering from severe epilepsies and who conventional therapists proved ineffective. The measure from Davis was also border medical marijuana legalization of the state, called for clinical trial at Medical University of South Carolina to further explore the potential of CBD to treat conditions. That same year, she signed a bill to legalize industrial hemp in South Carolina and remove the non toxicating form of cannabis plant from the state's definition of illegal marijuana. Advocates and hemp stockholders applaud those actions. Limited as they may have been, they preceded progress in the deep red state. And each year since, Davis has worked to build medical cannabis reform. So again, doesn't have personal experience, but she seems to be definitely for it.
Well, I mean, yeah, she definitely has shown that she do has a modest level of support for the industry. She definitely, I feel, can be a leader and
Mm-hmm.
can spawn change about the outlook of the industry. So I
Yep.
mean, I definitely will will be monitoring her campaign, and we definitely would love to discuss um, any updates in the industry that she provides as she discusses her presidential campaign, because she has the next year and a half in front of her.
Mm-hmm. And already she's revised version, she's filed it for the medical marijuana legalization bill for the 2023 session. Haley's position on the bordering policy change is unclear, though she indicated in 2014 she didn't feel the state was ready to go beyond limited CBD oil for patients. Now, remember, that was almost 10 years ago now. So at that time, I get what she's saying. That doesn't mean that she hasn't changed her thought process at this time. Now, she was asked about the legalization in 2014. The then governor stated that tried to do some sentencing reform in the past, and we're in the process of analyzing whether that worked. From the marijuana reform, I'm not there yet. I know the legislators have stated there's a bill coming through now that they're starting to do, but I do not get a sense of the people of South Carolina, nor do I feel at this point it's a hot topic or something worth moving forward. we're watching the other states. Now, keep in mind, this was 2014. In 2016, she met with medical cannabis advocates, including a girl named Dixie Pace, who suffered from severe epilepsy and whose mother pushed the legislation to enact reform. The governor was very receptive and sweet to Dixie. A person who attended the meetings at the time stated that marijuana is noticeably absent on Haley's social media accounts, though she has commented on the drug policy issue since leaving her position as a UN ambassador in 2018. She wrote, I have been to Afghanistan. I'm aware of how we have worked on replacing poppy production and have also tried to curb the drug production, but it's not working. After all these years, we have dented what is happening there. We were not explicit endorsements of taking different approach of prohibition. It signals an awareness and ineffectiveness of the policy. At least it's been applied for the poppy production, a perversion that could easily transfer to marijuana. On the other hand, she suggested support for the border crackdowns to stop the flow of drugs, i.e. fentanyl.
Fentanyl is a huge killer in the community.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is something that not only is it an epidemic, but there are some people out there that's pushing it out there, and it's causing us to lose a lot of people. So I definitely would like to see more regulations regarding that.
Well, now, like for example, we don't have a lot of information on her. So, given the limited information there is available about her position on cannabis policy beyond the medical cannabis and hemp, it's difficult to properly come to say how she would approach the issue in the Oval Office, and that's a fair statement. That said, her more recent focus of increasing border enforcement to mitigate drug trafficking, combined with her reluctancy to embrace going beyond CBD oil at the state level as a governor, leaves ample room to speculate that she would not be a champion of the types of reform that advocates are pushing for in this modern era. Her record does signal a level of sympathy for medical marijuana patients and respects for states taking same action on the cannabis policy, but it's not exactly clear at this point that she would be vocal about the reform movement going forward.
The best way to answer that question is ask her the question. Don't
Correct.
speculate. I feel that that's a level of taking away from who she can rightfully be by speculating. So give her a chance to answer that question and set the record straight.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. So now there's something that I sent you yesterday, and I don't know how much time you've had to look into it. We've got a new person entering the cannabis market in edibles. You know who that is? You heard about it?
Uh, let the people know.
16-time wrestling world champion Ric Flair is introducing his new personal cannabis line, Ric Flair Drip. The wrestling icon is teaming up with Karma Holdings founder and president Chad Bronston to launch the celebrity-inspired product. Holdings is also the parent company of the former professional boxing Mike Tyson's premier cannabis line, Tyson 2.0. So they've already got a hand in this field. Bronstein told Kennedy he and Flair first met in Tampa, Florida, and pitched the idea to Flair about launching a cannabis product. He recalled, I called up Mike and I said, hey, Ric Flair is my neighbor. What if we dropped a line called Ric Flair Drip? And I walked up to Rick and said, Rick, I'm going to start a cannabis line with you. And he goes, cannabis line? I said, trust me, it's going to do well. Rick, you got to know, be very educated in the space, and you know the brand is really booming. Now, Flair has gone on to state that this has changed his life, that he's using edibles and CBD and cannabis now, and it's completely changed. If you remember a few years ago, he was almost on his deathbed. I mean, he was bad shape.
Yeah, I can totally understand. The his career profession has taken a toll on his body. I can
Absolutely.
only imagine what kind of pains, tears, aches that he have every day when he
Ruptured
wakes up.
disc. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, I definitely that's something. One of the greatest persons to promote it is definitely Ric Flair. He has had an illustrious career, and I can only
Mhm.
imagine behind closed doors how much pain he's in.
Oh, absolutely. I've never met the gentleman. I've known many people in that field, and you saw a few months ago someone I knew. Now he's done hard drugs and alcohol, but you saw he's walking on a cane, and he's got a lot of issues, as many other do too. And Flair literally has touted saying how fantastic edibles are. They've changed his life by the way he sleeps. He also said he had been hooked on Xanax since 1989 and no longer takes them thanks to the edibles. Obviously, Xanax are so addictive and it's not good for anybody, so edibles are great. Flair claimed he doesn't smoke a lot, but he enjoys doing it periodically.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Doc talked about it, how when you actually smoke, and I think he called it the decarboxylation
Yes.
infused with your endocrine system.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I can only imagine the testimony that he can actually give, and
Right.
let's look definitely for more testimonials. I would say to actually send him a message, Nate, to see if he can actually publicize or put a testimonial out there. I think him, of course, Mike Tyson. I would tell you another person who I think would be phenomenal in that space is Jim Brown. I met Jim
Okay.
Brown a number of years ago when I was a younger athlete, and I can tell you that one of the reasons why he abruptly retired is because the amount of pain that he's
Right.
in. Um, he's barely able to walk, and you think about these athletes now, they're retiring at a younger age now, and it's just because those collisions are like small car accident. We covered this in one of the sections that we had discussed last year, and I'm just saying that the athletes who put their bodies on the line for the sake of entertainment for a sport that
Yes.
they love, keep in mind that they have to sleep with that immense pain that they're in after their game. They can have swollen knees, swollen ankles, any kind of tendon pain, muscle tears, severe bruising. Just from the falls, nonetheless, the collisions, whether it's football,
Right.
but basketball, just falling on the court from going up hard to the rim, and somebody comes up under you and takes your legs from up under you, that fall to the court, you can feel that for the next 3, 4 days, 5 days. So I definitely understand athletes giving
Mm-hmm.
testimonials and being able to endorse this product. And then, like I said, on a daily basis, there's 1,000 accidents in any major city.
Yes.
So those once again, car collisions create a form of pain
Mm-hmm.
that needs some level of pain management. So more research needs to be done, so that way that it can help the public, and it can help with um, possible addictions. And then of course with cannabis, there's really no such thing as an overdose with
Right.
cannabis. So we definitely have to just make sure that we continue to talk and maintain a level of normalcy in the conversation, so that way that the public can start voting on, hey, bring this, we want this,
Right.
and and the public servants that are in office, they have an obligation to listen to the public.
No, absolutely. And to your point, for example, football, we know it's violent. You know, you get hit, you get hit hard. Wrestling, for example, you've got springs underneath that mat. You've got foam on that mat. It's not exactly like a trampoline, but it has a little bit more give than most things. And you're taught how to land on your shoulder blades and absorb that impact. Now, to your point, basketball, you're going up for a layup. The guy undercuts you. You'd be lucky to have time to even try to get your hand down to hit that. But remember, that's a hard wood floor that's on top of concrete. There is no give.
No, no, not at all. And I mean, you can come up with concussions all
Absolutely.
day. I mean, you can actually have severe spine damage from a fall. Thank God we haven't seen that much in the sport over the years that it's been in place. Um, but for the most part, uh, those individuals, they need a safe remedy
Correct.
for pain management.
Well, and the last little thought I have on this before we start doing our closing thoughts, real quick, we see, for example, okay, look at Tua. Tua missed several games due to a concussion. We see somebody that misses games because they pulled a hamstring or whatever. But what we're not seeing is the effect on their daily life when they're not at camp, when they're not playing the season, they're trying to spend time with their kids, their family. We only see what's in the news at that moment. What about all these other aspects of their life that's constantly being taken away from them due to these things?
And you know the thing about it is, until they're gone, it's
Mm-hmm.
never been presented as a problem or issue. Um, but there still should be some form of clinical evaluations annually on
Correct.
players as they retire or no longer play the sport.
Agreed. Absolutely.
There's billions of dollars being made off of those athletes. Um, they can spare a few millions to do evaluations annually just to make sure that the ones that they call alumni, and that
Yes.
means anybody played, not just 1 year or 2 years, anybody that played should be able to get those resources available to them.
Well, that made me think of something real quick. I don't remember his name. There's a player who played for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He has been diagnosed with severe bipolar disorder, not a mental issues and whatnot. Every year, the Dodgers signed him to I don't know what, very small contract, but they signed him to a contract every year, and they said they will continue to do so only for the fact that they want him to continue to get the proper medical help that he needs. And by signing him to a contract, he's allowed to do so.
Well, the most important thing is that the medical exams determine your value as you re-sign a contract. So that's a standard practice. Unfortunately, for information that I know from the inside, that some of the doctors will devalue you to an organization to reduce your pricing, which is not fair.
No, it's
Especially,
not. No, so I agree with you that this individual hasn't played baseball, I think, in 5 years, but the Dodgers are still signing him to a contract every year just because they want to make sure that he has the proper help that he needs. So I give
absolutely.
great, shouts to them. And I don't remember who, but there's a couple of NFL teams that have done that as well. DeMar Hamlin, they said they were going to make sure, even though he didn't have service time, that he was going to get the proper medical help regardless. So these organizations do it. Thank you for doing that. You're not just doing the right thing. And it doesn't matter whether you're trying to get it out there in the public for people to see. It's what you did behind closed doors is what's important. And thank you to those organizations that have done that.
Well, in closing, what I'd like to say, especially about the DeMar Hamlin situation, let's monitor his contract and see if they will keep him on the
Right.
roster and re-sign him.
Yes.
Um, so you got to think that he is going to have a long-term onslaught of underlying issues
Yep.
from that day. So we want to definitely make sure that we monitor that, and we want to get the resources available through discussion, so that way the proper people can make the decisions to put these things into law and put them into place to protect the public. So
Absolutely. So we're up against that time, 1 hour now. Your closing thoughts, where people can reach out to you and connect with you?
closing thoughts, people, still keep an open mind, stay optimistic. You want to be able to at least have a voice and a say so in what's to come. So I commend people in their efforts to tune in and listen, but be a part of other discussions as well, so that way we can get this industry to move forward even more.
No,
Follow me at Big Boy
absolutely.
Sam. Follow me at Big Boy Sam with two M's. Follow me, Sammy Mumphrey, on LinkedIn as well.
Well, I thank all of you guys for being here. We look forward to looking into more of these topics as we get closer and closer towards where our candidates are going to lie on this discussion and see where we can move forward. Reach out to me at either Twitter or on Instagram at DJNQ75. Everybody have a safe week, and more information coming on the 420 events, not just here locally in Georgia, but try to talk about some that are going on throughout the nation as well. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. Bring more people and share this to others, even if they didn't get to watch it today. And everybody be safe, be blessed. We'll see you next Wednesday.
See you next Wednesday. Have a good day.